Hello, it was just like a time like this, morning. Everything was going to into normal. Everything looked like it was a normal thing, and the events on that day they were just a normal things which were taking place. No, nothing was suspicious in the air, and the banks were opening on a Monday morning. So those banks being opening on a Monday morning, there was a particular vault which they needed to open so that the operations of the bank could go through. So when they were trying to open this particular vault, the vault wasn't but opening. There was something that was locking the vault from opening. So what these people from the bank did, they called the particular people which made this particular vault system so that they can be able to come and have a look at it and see if it can be able to be opened or something might be a problem with it. They can figure it out. And this was in 1972 in the United States, a place called Las Vegas. And this was a particular bank where they were opening on the Monday morning. So as the bank manager called the particular person of that vault which made, so the vault people uh, called and sent the bank a particular assistance for them, a particular repairman will be able to open that vault and be able to come and open it very well and check what might be the problem. So the repairman came, just everything normal because there was no sign of anything which was happening. It was just like a normal day. People were going to business over there. Everybody is piling up their papers, but there was just a small issue over here. The vault system is not opening, so nobody had suspected anything. So when the repairman was coming, he came with his something, a hearing aid, where it will help him hear some clicks on the vault so that he can be able to open the vault. So when he was hearing the clicks, everything was in set. It took him like 2 hours to particular open and also check those clicks to be on check. So this was a long period of time, but he eventually did it. So when everything was checked, when he was going to the wheelbar to open that particular vault, the wheelbar wasn't opening. It was just stuck. So what he decided is to try it for another way where he could be able to access inside the vault. And in that banking vault, there's another way where somebody can be able to access the vault from the rooftop. From the rooftop, when you go to inside the ceiling, you can be able to access and see what's wrong with the vault. So when this repairman went into the rooftop, just going into and trying to see what's the problem, he just saw a big 4 foot hole inside that banking system and inside that vault, and he saw everything in that vault was in disarrangement. Nothing, everything was thrown down, be it the locking systems which were there, the drawers were just thrown everywhere, and things were looking like disorganized. And that's when they knew it was a particular bank robbery. So this repairman called the manager and told the manager that there is something which is shocking and there has been a robbery in this bank. So the manager, now he was very shocked. He climbed up to that particular vault to see what was the repairman talking about. Is the repairman knowing what he's talking, or is just talking anyhowly? And when he went, to his surprise, he saw that the repairman was telling the truth. Everything was in a mess. Everything was stolen. The bank cash money which was there, they were all taken away. So what the bank repairman did, the bank manager did, he called the police. The police informed the FBI that there's a particular robbery which has taken place. So the FBI came and started now doing some investigation, asking the bank manager how this particular banking system works, and they started now looking at the whole area parameter, how this particular burglary were able to do this particular heist. Some people say this is the perfect heist in US history, but I'll be telling you more even in the later video. So as they were looking on the particular vault and seeing the papers which were disarranged, they were just like looking for traces on how these people entered, to see if there's any fingerprints, just the normal work of the FBI looking for fingerprints. the fingerprints is the first thing which they look for, which can lead to the people, for them to know the people very fast, because a fingerprint can identify you even if you deny. It can identify you, but other things like you leave your shirt over there, you can deny that that isn't your shirt, or anything, or your shoes, you can deny. But a fingerprint, it is just particularly to you. So that's the first thing which the FBI looks for. They started looking for fingerprint, but they didn't find any fingerprint. So these thieves were just professionals. They didn't leave any trace of their fingerprints or any equipments or anything which they used in that particular vault. So they looked around, they saw that these had carried some sandbags, and these sandbags were used to direct the explosions inside that particular vault, because that vault was made in a way that it has a it has a, I think it was 4 foot to 6 foot concrete on top of it. So it needed some heavy explosion to be able to have a hole inside that concrete. So they used some particular dynamite, where they on top of that dynamite they put sand, as a a bag of sand, where this sand can be able to direct the particular explosion inside the bank, which can be able to, all the power will be able to be directed into inside the vault, and no debris will come over the, no explosion will be able to come and hit the robberies over there, because the robberies were in a type of in the ceiling. So you can just understand the ceiling, how it is. If something is able to explode, it can hit the people which are on the ceiling. So their main mission was to direct that explosion inside that particular vault. So the FBI continued looking to see any type of other way and method which they used. One of the things, as they were looking outside, they saw these particular thieves. What they did, they sprayed some particular foam on the alarm system. Even when the alarm is triggered, it cannot be able to ring or produce any sound. So they sprayed some particular foam on the alarm system, where this alarm system was prevented from making noise when it rings. So the other thing, what they did, this was a plan B, putting that particular foam on the alarm system. And after putting that foam on the alarm system, what they did, they went and disconnected the alarm physically by hands. And if they did a mistake and the alarm is triggered, it couldn't make noise. So they disconnected the particular cables of the alarm, and they were successfully, because these people looked like they did their homework very well and they had done their research. So everything which they did, there was no, it showed some sign of professionalism. So when the police now, they moved to the next step to see what amount of money and also type of goods which were stolen from that particular vault, they were able to estimate that more than $8 million of goods were able to be stolen from this particular vault, and some of them were in safety deposit box. The ones which were in physical cash were around 50,000, and that $50,000, they were for the banking system. The other ones were for particular individuals, for people. So it was very hard to track this particular money for individuals, people, because people having individuals safe lock box, they cannot be able to display their contents easily. Some of them, they are drug dealers. Some of them don't want to express what was inside that safe box. So it was very hard for the FBI to collect all the information, and even maybe some of the contents were even more, because if you are able to tell the FBI that in my safe deposit box I had almost over 100,000, this can be a red flag also to the FBI. How do you have so much money on your safety deposit box? What do you do? Now other investigations can be pinned on you. So this money can be even more than $88 million. But some of the people and also the victims which had the money in the safety deposit box decided not to spill all the contents inside of that particular safety deposit box of theirs. So for the bank was 50,000 only, 50,000 in cash, which had serial numbers following up to each other, and the serial numbers were able to be recorded. Now what the cops now started doing is started now investigating and see where they can start from, and see if they can get any person where they can have a role into their investigation. So what they did, they started investigating if any other type of robbery was taking place like this, and to their not it was very unfortunate for them not to find any particular robber which had taken place. And also they started looking for particular stores nearby to see if anybody had bought any tools like gloves or any drills which were used in that particular bank robbery, but they didn't find any on the particular local stores. And this was very good for the robbers because they did some professional work. And that's why the FBI also say that this work was very hard for them to pinpoint the particular thieves. So what they did, the FBI saw that this particular case was heavy for them. They needed to transfer it to a bigger office where they can be able to handle all the forensic which is happening on that case. And this case was handled to the California base of the FBI. And after handing it over to the California base, now the California base now started looking for this, if anybody has ever taken into this particular bank robbery where a person puts form on the bell of the banking system. Because what the robbers do, some of the what they do is some repeated actions of their past robberies. Through experience, they are able to now perfect their art. So it is very easy for police to find out people easily because they have perfected the art and similar robberies which they have done before. And this main robbery also correlate because this is their past actions before. So they now the FBI now started looking for if any other robbery has ever taken in any bank in which has ever taken in this particular type of method. And they were able to find some, like it was 8 robberies or so which were taken in that particular method, where people drill the holes of the bank and they are able to get inside the vault and also spray foam inside the bank. The type of robberies which took place in this method, they were able to be found. And the people which take this particular robbery were also arraigned. The people that ever taken place and also caught by the FBI in California, they were looked at the database and they were found, like it was over 100 people which have ever taken to these different major types of methods of stealing into a bank. So the FBI now had a list of 100 people which could be possible suspects. Now what they needed to do is to narrow down the number of people which can be able to have taken place into this robbery which happened in Las Vegas. And this was the biggest robbery in Las Vegas which has ever happened in the year of 1972, which has ever happened in Las Vegas. Obviously, there are more robberies. I don't know if there are more. I've not done some research over there. So the now the FBI started narrowing down on the particular robbery which if this 100 list of robbers have maybe participated in this particular robbery which took place in Las Vegas. And you traveling from California to Las Vegas, you need an aeroplane. So what the police started doing is investigating if they can be able to see if any of these 100 suspects were able to travel to Las Vegas the day before the robbery incident took place. Because this robbery, it was able to take place on Friday night and it ended on Monday night, because it was a weekend thing which these people took over. They were able to do this robbery over a weekend. It was a weekend long thing because the banks in 1972 used to close in weekends, and the banks will close on Friday and resume on Monday. So it was very hard for any person to hear any noise or have any suspicions because the banks were closed. So they started doing some investigations on the airport to see if if these 100 people had booked any flight. So it was a very tedious thing because at that time the particular records were kept. The computers were not yet invented fully. So they had to do it manually, and it was a very tiresome work for the FBI. But luckily they were able to find find the suspects which were had traveled into Las Vegas using flights, and they found it was 6 suspects. And these 6 suspects, now they started doing some investigations on the 6 suspects, and one of the suspects was called Emilio Emilio Demaz, and he had a brother called Charles, and they had some other friends of his, which were around 4 friends, and his brother, which makes 5 friends. They had 3 friends, and then him and the brother makes 5 friends now, people which took place in this particular robbery. Now they had this particular person which was in this five member group. One of his brother was living in Las Vegas where that particular robbery had taken place. So what the police did, they investigated on that particular brother to see if these people if they went to Las Vegas, they were able to meet up with this brother. So the first thing what the police did, they went to the brother and they were able to investigate and see if these thieves were hiding in his house or he had any type of cash in him, because the robbery had already happened. So when they were investigating him, the police realized that he had no clue, but he had some 50% clue. And also they asked him, does your brother lives here, or did these particular robbers come to stay here with you? But he said they didn't come to stay there. The FBI sensed that he was saying some truth in what he said. So the FBI continued the investigations, and one thing what the FBI did, which was smart for them, they went to that particular airport for Las Vegas and asked taxi cab drivers and showed them some pictures of these particular robbers which had done the robbery, and showed them some pictures and to see if the particular taxi drivers can be able to identify the robbers. But one of the taxi drivers was able to identify the robbers and said this robber gave him $100 tip. So he couldn't forget this particular robber. So the taxi driver was asked by the FBI to take them to where he took them, and the taxi driver was able to take them to a particular place where he took them. But when the FBI looked at that particular place, they were not able to find that person. So it was a dead end for the FBI. Now they started looking for more investigations to see any particular person which was linked in the robbery lives around that area or has any other relatives in that area. And one of the robbers which was on that list, one of them was a military officer, and another one was a particular person which was a veteran in making bombs and also making explosives. So what the police did, saw that if this person makes explosives, then the type of robbery which happened in that particular bank was mainly because of explosive, then this person or this group can be the one which did this particular robbery. So this was a good result for the FBI, because they had something positive, because all of these other things were just allegations. They didn't have any hard evidence to pin down these particular criminals and say it was them. So what they did, they looked for hotels. They went into every hotels in Las Vegas to see if these particular names were able to register in that hotels. But the mistake which the FBI did, they went to big hotels and they looked for them in big hotels, because maybe what the FBI knew that if this person could be able to give out $100 tip, then this person is rich, he is living in big hotels. But one of the FBI agents did something which was not in the way of other FBI agents. What he did, he went to the local hotels which were not so big, and he was able to ask those managers of the hotel if they are able to see or sign in these particular members of the Six Clan group. And luckily one of the hotel managers said that he was able to see one of the particular robbers, and he was able to sign at least 4 robbers in that particular hotel. So it was a positive for the FBI. Now they started investigating, and inside that hotel which the robbers were and they were living, which the manager showed them, they were able to see the phone call records which they were making, and one of the phone call records which they were making, they were able to link them to another veteran which was also in the army. And this veteran which was in the army, they were able now to go and start investigating him, and they used some method which they convinced him that he was in the service, he was in the army, he just needs to come forward, and because it's a service for his country, he needs to show this FBI is the culprits, because these are the people which are letting down the country. And the FBI were able to convince him. He gave out and also spilled all the beans and said that there was a particular friend of his which came to him and requested that he should have a meeting with a 5-member gang people inside his house, and that person gave him $100 so he can leave and leave them have that meeting. And one thing he told them that those members had, one of that member, his friend, left a car in the garage, so they went into the garage to see that car which this friend had left for him, to see if it had any evidence of any equipment or it had that money which was stolen. So when the FBI were just looking at that particular car, they were able to see gloves, they were able to see some dust inside the car, which this dust resembles the dust which was in the particular banking system, and also the dust which was on the vault. So the FBI were very shrewd in their investigations. But this car, they couldn't open this car because this car, they hadn't acquired a search warrant. That's one thing good about the FBI and also the US system, because if you don't have a search warrant, you can't be able to search that car. So the FBI were just looking at the car, just circling it. It has evidence, but they can't be able to open this car, because if they open, it's against the law. So they had to acquire a search warrant, and they had to convince this person of the house, which had said the people had left the particular car in his house, to arrange a meeting with that robber which left that car inside of his house. So they arranged a meeting in a public bar. So when they were in a public bar meeting up, now the police and also the FBI were able to apprehend this person, this robber, and after apprehending him, they also pretended to apprehend the person which gave out this particular robber, so it can be confusing for him. So remember, these other robbers, hearing that this person has been apprehended, now they started now being on the lookout and now started escaping. So what the FBI now, they continued, and also now they hurried their investigations even more, so that because the one of the things, they have alerted the robbers, the other robbers, now they were on the alert, they could do anything and to escape because they had money. So the FBI they went also now start searching for other local areas and also local places to see if these people had lived around, and they were able to see a particular motel where these particular robbers had stayed over there. And in that motel, when the manager allowed them to have a look inside that motel, they were able to see that these robbers were there, and they had cleaned up everything. Nothing was even left in that house. Even fingerprint, a single fingerprint, there was nothing which was left in that particular house. And remember at that time, when they caught this robber, they were able now to get a search warrant to open this particular car which was in the garage, and they were able to, after opening, they were able to see that the car had it had drills, it had explosives, it had gloves, it had some dust, and all these equipments, they were able to see that these equipments and also the sand matched the one which was in the bank, and also the ones which was blown inside that bank, and it was a perfect match. So the FBI knew this was solid evidence for them to take away these particular robbers already. But one thing they missed is the other robbers. So when they were looking inside that house of those other robbers, they were able to see that these robbers did a perfect job to hide everything. The cleanup was very spectacular because there was not any fingerprint in that house, but there was one mistake which they made. Inside that particular dishwasher, there was some old dishes which they had used, and one of the things they forgot to press the on button of the dishwasher that can be able to wash that dishwasher. those plates. And after opening that dishwasher, they were able to see all the plates, glasses, which these particular robbers did. And on those glasses and plates and spoons, they were able to find out fingerprints of the robbers. And these fingerprints were used to match the fingerprints which were on the weapons, which were on the tools which were used on that particular robbery, and they were able to find it was a match. These tools and also the fingerprints on the tools were a match. So it was, now there was a search warrant for all these robbers which were listed, the 6 of them. The 5 of them, one was already, a warrant had been, he had already been caught. So now a warrant was issued against them. And one of the things, they were now started looking for them, but it was in vain for the police because they had already moved out and they were not in Las Vegas. But fortunately, they were able to find the ringleader of that particular gang in California. And this ringleader was he was just normal. He was, even when that day when they found him, when they were searching on his pockets, they found dollar bills, and those dollar bills were $5,000 bills, $5,000 bills inside his pocket. And those $5,000 bills, when they looked at their serial number, they found that the serial number is the same serial number which they had stolen from inside the bank. So the serial number was a match, and this is a mistake which this robber did. So they were able to apprehend him and take him to jail and take him to court, because this was solid evidence against him. He couldn't refuse or say anything. But for him, he saw that he's above the law. He can be able just to walk freely. But this was a shock for him. He was jailed for almost 17 years. Then the other members were the brother of this ringleader was also caught, and he also sentenced to jail for 17 years. And before sentencing them to jail for that long, the police and also FBI got a tip that these particular robbers were people which were fond of burying the type of cash which they get into their land. So the FBI, what they did, they went into the lands which these people owned, and they were able to do some excavation. This excavation took a 2-day period, and they were able to find a big trunk in the inside of their house. And that trunk, when they opened it, they saw all the particular contents in those vaults which they had stolen in the Las Vegas bank. They found contents, be it gold, be it necklaces, be it cash money. They were able to find it inside that trunk, and this was just enough evidence to take them also and also convict them to jail. And also they looked for other places, and the FBI were able to find other trunks which convicted them to be the robbers. So there was the brother. Do you remember the brothers? All these other people were caught and jailed, and the brothers were in a run. But one of the brothers was not caught, and the other brother was caught, and he was taken to jail. And this brother was told to produce his other brother, but the brother refused to say where his brother was. And the brother, it was almost 8 years since this case had happened, and they didn't find this other brother. But there's one mistake which the brother did. The brother, what he did, he told a particular lady which he was staying he was staying with her, that he had done a particular bank robbery in Las Vegas. And this lady told one of his friends. And maybe, I don't know why these friends decided to tell the FBI, I don't know. The friend called the FBI and told the FBI that I know of somebody who has ever taken place in a bank robbery. So the FBI asked, what's the name of that person? He said the name of the person, and that name resembles the suspects which were being looked for in that particular bank robbery. So the FBI, what they did, they came and they were able to catch this particular robber. Unlike the other people which were jailed for 15 years, 16 years, he was jailed for 20 years. And that's how the FBI were able to close on this case of Las Vegas robbery. And they say this is the perfect case of robbery. But to me, this wasn't the perfect case. The perfect case of robbery was the Dunbar robbery, which took place it was in a particular city, where at the end of this video, I'll show you the video where you can be able to look at that story of that Dunbar and some of the cash which was stolen in that particular Dunbar. Some of the cash was never found. Almost three-quarters of the cash wasn't found, and this is because before they were caught, they took police into many different directions. So if you want to watch that video, you can click on this video and you can be able to watch it. It's a nice video. It is the perfect heist for me. This isn't perfect, but the Dunbar is the perfect. Please watch it out, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Till I see you next time.